I want to talk briefly about song structures today. By that, I mean how ideas can be organized. For example, the traditional verse-chorus structure. This is something that's related to the idea of primary and secondary riffs, but in this case, we're talking about structures in the context of lyrics. Obviously, choosing a structure is up to you. It's definitely personal preference. Some bands will just go through one riff, some bands go from section to section and never move back, and then most just use verse-chorus. Personally, I don't like the idea of choruses, and by that I specifically mean refrains. It's taking a set of lyrics and repeating them exactly. Storytelling to me progresses linearly. Alternating between verses and choruses kind of oscillates instead of that, and repeating lyrics doesn't really make sense to me. You don't tell a story by going through an A verse, a B chorus, a C verse, and then jumping back to the B chorus. It's kind of weird to break continuity like that. It also implies that those set of lyrics are so much better than the rest of the song and they warrant being repeated. It seems like the act of writing verses can be overshadowed by someone looking for a good hook. My goal is to write songs that are at a consistent level all the way through. Every word counts equally. I don't like filler lines or filler verses. I certainly don't like to reuse the same lyrics over and over again. I even try to refrain from using the same words twice in a song. Regardless, verse-chorus is still a good structure because it allows you to alternate between different sections while still keeping your ideas together. If your song was just one riff, it would be pretty monotonous, although I've done that not once but twice. Kind of. And if your song just shuffles from one section to another and never goes back, then there's not much that's holding everything together. I know a lot of black metal is this way, especially stuff like Emperor and more modern atmospheric stuff. But if you talk about old school black metal, Darkthrone and Burzum definitely kept it really simple. So the way my music is structured is in a way that uses primary verses and secondary verses, just like the primary and secondary riffs. And the verses themselves, they're sometimes written to conform to an associated riff, depending on whatever comes first, the music or the lyrics. But the vocals will, they'll have their own meter, rhyming style, and so on. One thing I like to do is rhyme across verses. Insomnia is my best example of this. This is when my verses themselves are written parallel one another with an intention of creating this association between lines. Compare the second line of the first verse of Insomnia, solar waves crash over my body, to the second line of the final verse, cold waves wash over my body. I do the same thing for the secondary riffs or the chorus sections as well. Like for example, Obsidian Heart. The opening line of the first chorus is Obsidian Heart shrouded in darkness, while the second chorus, when it's repeated, goes Obsidian Heart trapped in a carcass. This is a way you can establish continuity within the song without repeating lyrics, and it really opens up the depth and the detail of the pieces in your song. Typical Apathy song shuffles between the primary and secondary riff a couple of times, and then it might do a big transition to a new section. Usually this section's clean, it's an arpeggiated version of the main riff. Otherwise, it's just a tertiary riff, and it's usually all related to the main riff in one way. You get leads and solos. On the demo you got a lot of harmonics. They can actually come back on the new album for one track. From here on, the song usually ends in this section, or maybe it transitions back to the primary section. Of course, you can organize your songs however you want. Just keep in mind that structures are a thing that you should pay attention to, and you can take advantage of them and incorporate your specific style to a certain structure, just to tie everything together. So you can see that my approach to music is the same for different parts, whether it's guitar, lyrics, bass, drums. I have these ideas that I'm always trying to incorporate with one another and form a sense of cohesion where everything's equal and no part's greater or less than the others.